Welcome to What She Does, the podcast that takes you inside the working lives of everyday women shaping the world around us. I'm Liane Starr.
And I'm Annie Sinzinger. And each week, we sit down with someone who shows us not just what she does, but how and why she does it. Plus, find out if you fit the same mold to grab the same type of gig. Let's discover
What She Does, starting now.
Our guest today wears a lot of hats, literally and figuratively. She's a systems engineer by training and the founder of Guava Co, a resort wear brand built on sustainability and Pacific culture, whose kids' line started as Guava Jammies. As a fifth-generation Hawaii resident, her connection to the land and the water there shapes every fabric and print choice she makes. It all started with late-night doodles during maternity leave and a search for clothing gentle enough for her son's sensitive skin. Let's talk story.
Our guest today is Steffy Simms, who's the founder of Guava Jammies. Hello, Steffy.
Hi, good morning. It's only 9:30 here in Hawaii, so it's bright and early and happy to be here.
Yes. And tell me, why did you think, I'm going to make a kid's pajama?
Yes, it's actually the craziest story because I started the company while I was on maternity leave with my first son. And, in the throes of pumping and taking care of my first child in my 40s, I don't know what I was thinking, to be honest, but as I reflect back and, the rear view's always 2020, I think that what was going on was I was really struggling with being away from work. If I had to categorize myself, I'm such a doer. As soon as I have an idea, I kind of just execute, which has both worked for me and against me at times. But I was really struggling, feeling, I think, disconnected from the typical and traditional productive environment of being at work. And so I would find myself kind of up late at night, pumping with my son because, nothing went the way that I thought, especially not nursing. So I was kind of tethered to this pump, 8 times a day. And I just, I needed a creative outlet. So I started creating doodles. That was kind of the first step. I was just drawing, and it was really just an opportunity for me to both be productive, but also kind of find some joy in those lonely midnight hours. And what I ended up drawing were a lot of very vibrant prints and colors that were kind of reminiscent of these very happy memories from my childhood. So these are like bright colors of like candy buttons, which would be all over these little AAPI owned mom and pop shops here in Hawaii, colors that you would see when you look at the candy shelves. And at the same time, while I was struggling with nursing with my son, he was also suffering from extreme eczema. So he would kind of break out in rashes every so often. A lot of things would irritate his skin, from the hot, humid weather to certain foods that he would eat, unfortunately, like mango, which is, something we look forward to here every summer. But on top of it, it was his clothing. And so any of these seams and zippers and tags from even his organic cotton baby clothes would kind of send his neck and chest area into this hot, irritated rash. And so as I was creating these drawings, I started to think to myself, well, how can I somehow get these drawings to manifest into something that would last kind of outside of just my iPad? And so the idea for putting these prints onto a baby product that also addressed the issue that my son was struggling with kind of just came to life as I was navigating all of this.
And so why did you call it Guava Jammies?
That that's kind of a play on two things or two themes in my life. The first is here in Hawaii, guava jam is just kind of something we eat. There's, songs about guava jelly. Kind of notorious line is "rub up on my belly like guava jelly." Um, so this idea of guava-based products is not something unfamiliar to us. But on top of it, guava jam and guava jelly is something that my family has always made for as long as I can remember. And the interesting thing is that we've never actually planted a guava tree. And so the way that these guavas have shown up on our property is just by birds that have probably eaten guavas, which grow wildly here in our mountains. And then, their droppings have planted these beautiful trees all around our property. And so, as I was thinking of names, I knew I was going to start with a pajama because I needed to slather my son in Cetaphil and cover up his skin, essentially. So, I needed something to go
Mm.
completely head to toe. So, I knew I wanted to make a long, organic bamboo pajama. And I was thinking of names. I kept saying something with jammies, something with jam. And then my husband, who is sitting next to me, who usually ignores my blabberings most of the time, just popped it out of his mouth. He was like, guava jammies. And I was like, yes, that's the name. That's it right there.
Oh, I love that. And then you also have stuff for grown-ups on your website. That's really cute. What did you do before? Because you liked working, and obviously you had to take time off because of your child, but what did you do?
Well, I guess by training, I'm an engineer. Um, and
Mm.
I guess my experience in academia and education kind of reflects my here, there, everywhere approach to work. So I started out as an accounting major just because I didn't know what to major in and I really liked math. So I chose accounting. And then I had an influential teacher who kind of put me on the route to become a systems engineer. And so I ended up majoring in that, going back for my master's, working in engineering, surprisingly within the fashion district in LA, managing supply chains for a while before moving back
Mm.
to Hawaii. When I moved back to Hawaii, the engineering industry here is a little bit more siloed. And so I couldn't find something in supply chain. And so I ended up working mostly like a project managerial kind of position. And then made my way into education. So, back as a teacher. So, I work currently as a physics teacher and a robotics program coordinator, where I help advanced technology students design culturally significant programs for Indigenous communities. It's actually one of the deep passions of my heart and like a mission of my life that I truly believe in. And oddly, Guava Jammies and the women's line, Guava Co, it feels really similar. It feels like the same work of elevating communities by creating a value-added product. And so I currently still do that, running the business and balancing the other hats, everything at the same time.
With a little kid.
With 2 now. Yep, with 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yike. So how old are they?
My oldest son is now 3, and my youngest son is now 7 months.
Oh, wow, really recent.
Yes.
And I'm assuming you have been worrying about business the whole time you've been pregnant.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. They should tell you that 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 with children. It's more like
No.
some kind of squared or exponential relationship in terms of the work. I can't get anything done anymore. And it's like a
Uh,
joyful struggle, but definitely a struggle.
And your systems engineering background, I'm sure helped with kind of understanding how to set up production processes or all the different processes that you would necessarily need to know to fulfill not only production of the product, but also the fulfillment of the product, customer service, all these different, because it's all systems, right?
Yes, it is, and it's really changed so much since the introduction of AI. Like, I I
mm,
find that so much of what I learned, at least in school, is just not even relevant anymore. There's entire gigantic systems of computer programs that are not used and that have been completely replaced by different AI platforms, whether those are big ones like ChatGPT or even small ones like the proprietary integration of AI into Shopify. It's like if I had stayed, I think, in that position within supply chain and did not choose to grow with the introduction of AI, I'm sure I would be out of a job right now because so much of it
Wow.
is just replaced. And so it's both, a double edged sword. It's amazing to see, but also my heart goes out to many classmates of mine who I still keep in touch with who are now kind of looking for that next thing and who are looking for ways to be of value in different ways to companies.
wow. Okay. And tell me a little bit about some of your, you said most of your designs just came out of your childhood experience, but is there any sort of thought that has to go into what's on trend or what is popular? You said you worked in LA. I mean, is that something that figures in or it doesn't matter at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the meat and potatoes of the designs are definitely rooted in Hawaii and my experiences growing up here. And I think that's kind of been the North Star also for Guava and Co., which is our women's line, which was born at the same time as my second son. So I seem to have this theme of when I have too much on my plate, let's just add another scoop. Um, but all of it is definitely, based on traditional Hawaiian prints, or actually any kind of Polynesian prints, inspiration from Aotearoa, um, Rarotonga, and just all across Pacifica. And then what changes based on the seasons, like what you're speaking to, is definitely the colorways. So maybe the fabrics, the textures, the silhouettes, and the colorways that would definitely change based on the trends.
But because you're influenced by Hawaiian culture, you can tune out some of the trendy nonsense that comes down the pipeline from like Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah, definitely. And there's certain values that I think keep me in my own lane. One of those would be the
Yeah.
sustainability factor. So, no matter what material is trending, I'll always choose materials that are non toxic, especially for our women's wear, because we tend to be focused on non toxic products for children. And then once we get into adult wear, all of that goes out the window, right? We're wearing microplastics, we're using
Mhm.
dyes
Yes.
that tend to have toxic chemicals. So I tend to use more of the organic materials, materials like tencel or bamboo or things that have more of a sustainable life cycle and use less water. And then also in terms of the silhouettes, no matter what's trending, like you're saying, during fashion week, I try to be mindful of bodies because something that was really important to me was creating a resort wear line that was not size
Mm.
prohibited. So, all of our sizing, you'll only see three sizes on our website for our women's wear. For example, size one would cover anything from a size two all the way up to a size 10. And it's just meant to reflect that ebb and flow of real women's lives, of real seasons, whether you are in a high and working out all the time and feeling very productive, or maybe you're in a season where you can't focus on your health, or you are actually maybe you're pregnant and you want something that you can wear during your pregnancy and also after. So everything is meant to cross multiple traditional size lines.
I love this. The thing that I also think it's interesting, like you did say, like I'm probably wearing microplastics right now, but um, it seems like that's something that's a really hot topic now. But I'm wondering if it was a hot topic to like have healthier clothes when you started. Was
Mm.
there like any kind of push uphill that you had to do?
Yeah, you're right. I think at the time that there was ideation around the brand, the focus on microplastics and clothing wasn't really at the forefront of everyone's conversations. However, in Hawaii, we're so connected to this idea that you are part of your environment. And so Aina, which is land, and Vai, which is water, is always something that guides, I think, how we make our decisions. And so the intention behind not using materials as much as possible that contribute to microplastics in our environment had to do with concern for water. Because we're always talking in Hawaii about the health of our water. We're one of the only states, I think, where the tap water tastes a million times better than the bottled water. No one here drinks bottled water. It has a funny taste to it compared to the water that naturally comes from our tap, which is filtered through volcanic rocks, and most of the time comes from underground aquifers. So the protection of our water systems is very important here.
What island are you on? Are you on Oahu or Maui or
Yeah, I'm on Oahu.
you're on Oahu?
Mhm.
So is the tourist trade a big deal? I would assume in Oahu.
Yeah, definitely. I'm sure some large percentage, which I don't know, of our domestic product is from tourism. Treating our tourists well and taking care of them when they come is a life sustaining for us. So many industries would collapse if we did not have the amount of tourism that we have. And it's kind of always juxtaposed with the perspective from our kamaaina or our local community of wanting to also protect what is ours, not just having an influx of visitors that would deplete all of our resources, but trying to also maintain that balance.
What has been the biggest learning curve for you in starting a business?
Yeah, I would say the steepest learning curve is learning how to manage my time and differentiate between value added and non value added activities. I think as business owners, and I'm sure even more so for artists turned business owners, you want to spend your time on things that feel good and fill your cup, which is absolutely important for self care and wellness. But I think that transition from just owner designer to CEO, which is kind of the step that I'm trying to make is seeing myself really as that business owner CEO, which unlocks a million doors, right? It's the ability to scale. It's the ability to scale and therefore support your community because the more I grow, the more other women I could bring along, whether through employees or mentorship or something else. But just taking off that hat of, focusing on putting out the fires and wanting to do the designing and all the little things that pop up, stepping back and being able to hire people to outsource, to allocate and delegate, that has been, I think, my biggest challenge this far.
And what has been most rewarding for you? Like, I would think dressing your kid might be number 1, but maybe not.
Think the most rewarding thing, well, I guess it would be a hard choice between 2. It'd be either seeing women out in the community, wearing our pieces and seeing me and maybe coming up to me and saying like, "Thank you so much. I felt so good wearing this because I was going through like a divorce and I had gained a lot of weight. And this was the one piece I always grabbed that made me feel good. Something along those lines. Um, but also, I absolutely love connecting on the backside of things with other women business owners and seeing how many small businesses, I'm sure nationally, internationally, and locally, are women owned. And it's really, it's women out there commanding more economic power and really doing things with that economic power to uplift their communities. That's been incredible.
I love that.
Having worked in fashion in LA in the fashion district, when you're making that transition from being founder to then really being CEO and having people underneath you, what are you finding the skills that you need to be able to make that first part happen as a founder, and then the second, which is the transition away from, doing the day to day and really overseeing?
Mm, I think one of the most valuable skills for just becoming founder is being willing to be uncomfortable and to get your hands dirty. Um, I think, at least personally for myself, I do not like the feeling of not knowing what I'm doing. I'm not somebody that doesn't plan. If my husband and I went on a trip to Tahiti, and I had this spreadsheet where when you list out all the things you're going to pack, it populates on the next spreadsheet exactly what size it is and then exactly what suitcase it should go in. And then on the last spreadsheet, a checklist so that you can check it off when you leave to go and then you check it off when you come back. And that is just me. I love planning. Um, and so the feeling of, I guess that's why, right? Engineering and supply chain management made sense for me.
Mm.
But the feeling of not being good at something, I really struggle with. And in business, if you're just starting out, you have to do the everything. You are the order fulfillment, you're the designer, you're the accountant, you are, the risk mitigation person. You have to do everything. And if you get paralyzed by the feeling of, I don't know what I'm doing and I'm not good at this, you will just never get anything done. And so for me, that was like the most important skill. It's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know if this is right, but I have to take step one because if I don't, the ball stops moving. And I can't afford to do that.
We talked about sort of you're based in Hawaii. What's the hardest thing about selling your product off of the island? I mean, because you're not like on the mainland where I think it's really easy, even though there's online ordering and all of that. What do you find the biggest challenge with being on the island and selling your product?
I think two things immediately jump out. The first is that any shipping anything from Hawaii or even to Hawaii is extremely cost prohibitive. the cost of getting my product um, is just insanely high. And then the cost of shipping it from here to anywhere in the continent, let alone internationally, is just exorbitant. So that is kind of the first thing that stands out. One of the ways that I've seen some other companies navigate this is once they scale to a certain size, they actually have distribution centers located in the continental
Mhm.
US. And so their product, once they have a manager at that location, their product will go directly from manufacturing to that distribution center. And then they're able to fulfill national orders from there. The other thing that kind of stands out in my mind though is not a liability, it's actually kind of an asset, is that if people are shopping for resort wear that represents island life, I think it is feels a little more authentic to purchase from a brand that's based in the islands.
So right now you don't have a distribution center on the mainland.
No,
And
right now I am paying that, $15 to $20 per order to ship to Minneapolis. Yeah.
yeah. So what are some of the other things that you're doing to make it a more affordable product? Because it seems like these are expensive things that you're trying to do, things that are eco and they're good for your skin and but I don't know.
Yeah, I think right now at the growth stage that we're at, what has worked for us is, well, first of all, thankfully, the customers that have shopped with us are willing to kind of put their spending power into their value system. And so we do have customers willing to pay a little more for sustainable products and that are willing to, for example, pay for shipping and support small businesses. But the other thing is that my vision for the company is really that we do most of our sales through an online sales channel. And so by eliminating my dependency, hopefully on wholesale channels, allows me to keep my price point relatively
Mm.
low because I don't need to build in that additional markup, assuming that I'm going to have to sell, at a discount for wholesale. I really want to kind of just build up that online sales channel so I can keep the products affordable for customers.
Do most of your sales come from online or from stores?
Yeah, mostly from online and then some in-person markets where our local customers will shop.
As a small business, where are you finding distribution hardest? I mean, in terms of like, there are multiple online marketplaces along with your own personal website or your company's website. Where are you finding, the best opportunities for you?
I think I'm still at the stage where I'm figuring that out because I've definitely,
Mm,
we've got our own website with our own SEO that's been built up over the past 2 years through online sales. I'm definitely diving into the world of meta ads, but as far
mhm,
as other advertising channels, I'm not yet familiar with it. And I don't know that as I make that transition from founder to CEO, that that's something of value for me to learn, or is that something that I should just hire someone to do? So I'm
mm,
currently in that stage of decision making where I'm thinking about what other advertising or marketing channels would be most important for us in order to reach our target customer and, get our product in front of them, and is it worth it for me to try to learn this, or is this something that I just kind of have to
mhm.
learn how to take my hands off and trust someone else to do?
I imagine that's really difficult, especially when you're used to having your hands on everything, is that idea of being able to trust someone else with kind of where your vision and business wants to go. Um, I I was kind of curious too about whether or not going into this field is what you think a good career move, maybe definitely for somebody maybe starting out. But is it also a good career move for somebody who's looking to pivot? Because like you pivoted, but, at some point, is there not a good time to pivot into something like this?
Mm.
Maybe not when you have the second baby.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was
maybe.
just like, that extra scoop on the plate is not the best approach for everyone. I don't know why I do that. I don't know that it's even the best for me. But one thing I always told myself, I don't know if this really will answer the question, is that whenever my decisions put additional stress on my family, then I know it's not the right decision. Like I always have to put my own desire for personal success into check with that.
Do you think that's true of, your partner too? Or do you think that women tend to have to take that step because they are sort of the hearth of the family?
Yeah, I don't know what the answer is to that. I think for us, we have a little bit of an unconventional family structure. My husband is actually the baby whisperer, especially with our second
Oh,
son.
nice.
Yeah, so he's the stay-at-home dad. I go to work and then run the business, and I mean, and this was a very hard second child. I had heard of colic before, never fully understood what that was, but
Oh,
our second child had colic until just about 4 weeks ago. So I'm only now in the stage where the fog is sort of lifting, but that was
lifting.
enough to I think there were moments where I was actually physically banging my head on a wall in a separate room because I was so sleep deprived and so frustrated and so heartbroken, that there was nothing that could be done for my son who's been crying for it's
Mm.
hours. It's actually hours of inconsolable screaming. It's not crying, it's screaming. Um,
Oh my goodness.
yeah, and during those first 6 months, the only person that could comfort our baby was my husband, and he really is the baby whisperer, but, you know so for me to say that I won't do anything that stresses my family comes from a very unconventional family structure where I'm actually the one going to work every day. But I'm sure that women feel that.
Wow, and maybe your husband could do a book you have to do t with a kid with colic, 'cause I have
Oh,
so much sympathy for you.
it is just so agonizing.
God.
I would say our last question, which we ask everyone, is knowing all that you know now, what would you tell your younger self?
I would tell my younger self not to spend so much time worrying about making the best move, but just make the right move for you in that moment. Because I think for my personality and the way that I am, I can really just spin my wheels trying to analyze every potential outcome and try to choose the best path, like what classes do I have to take in high school to optimize my college choices? Then what classes do I have to take in college to optimize my chances of getting a job? And the reality is, you have no idea what's going to happen. Anything can happen. People can get sick. You can get opportunities that you never thought would come your way. People will see things in you that you can't even see in yourself. And so I think if I had just spent less time worrying and agonizing about the right decision or I'm sorry, the best decision, I would have just been able to make decisions right for me in the moment that would have probably gave me more freedom, both emotionally as well as in terms of my choices. So I think I would tell myself that.
That's really good. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Steffi. It has been great to have you on.
It was so much fun. I really enjoyed the opportunity and just such a pleasure to share and kind of talk shop.
Thanks so much, Steffi.
Thanks so much.
Well, Steffi has her work cut out for her because she's
Ah, cut out for her.
oh, okay.
No, I love it. I love it because, I mean, it's true. The fashion business in particular is highly competitive, right? I mean,
Yes,
and starting a new brand on top of that in fashion is probably a very daunting task.
yeah, and, um, a a lot of the things that sort of separate her clothes are not things that probably sell really well, like, it's eco-friendly, etcetera, etcetera.
Well, I think it sells well because people are looking for something like that, particularly, if it's soft and comfortable, on the skin. But she is a niche, right? She does resort wear, and so she's really talking about people who are vacationing in a tropical environment, uh, and so that narrows the audience down, but I I think, when you believe in something really hard and you see an opportunity, she's also trying to problem solve too. I mean, her kid is the one that kind of
Spurred everything.
inspired her. Yeah. So, I I think her background, not necessarily being an engineer, but her experience with supply chain is
Yeah,
a really critical element to her being able to launch something like this because that process in itself is kind of a can be a quagmire.
yeah. It can be thorny. But she
So,
knows it, so she has an advantage. I would pick up one of those moo if I was on the island. I think probably she gets a lot of traffic, especially foot traffic from tourists. And those are things
possibly.
that tourists would buy, like,
Yeah, it's
the
like a souvenir, right, of your trip in a lot of
it's a
ways.
souvenir, but it's also something you can wear
Yeah.
immediately.
Yeah, definitely.
It's cool and breezy. It's good.
I did find that, if somebody really wants to do fashion, um, I I hesitate because you kinda have to have some knowledge of the fashion business,
Yeah.
and, you also should know something about marketing because anything beauty, fashion is driven a lot by social media.
Mhm.
And then there's the practical stuff. You should know accounting and finance. Entrepreneurship classes are probably a good idea. And
Yeah.
then specialized boot camps around apparel entrepreneurship would be good. Um, and then you really have to understand creative. You don't necessarily have to be the designer. That's kind of the interesting part. Like if you're good at the business side, you can hire a designer, which is great.
She
Um,
doesn't need to, but yeah.
No, sh in her case, she doesn't need to because she already has that idea of, like, the design. But I think that if you're somebody who is looking to start this, first of all, your startup year 1 through 3, you're not making much at all. You're lucky if you're making anything. And then as you grow or are able to grow, direct to consumer models actually gain the highest grossing margins. So if you don't have like all these like middle people in between, then, and you don't sell wholesale, which I don't think she does. She sells direct to consumer. There is an opportunity to hold on to more of the profits. Um, I think in general, like if you really want to pursue this, it kind of requires a high tolerance for risk.
Yeah.
Um, You have to be comfortable wearing multiple hats, and
She can
that's
make
I think
figure hats.
and she can make your hats for you.
She make living.
Um, and then I think it's the reason why you have to be comfortable wearing multiple hats is because it is an entrepreneurship, right? You can't rely on anybody else to take care of it for you, unlike a franchise, which sets up sort of the, um,
Structure.
structure for you. But I think you have to be really resourceful and believe in yourself more than anything.
Well, I'm
So
rooting for Steffi. She'll do
yeah,
it.
I
Go
think her
Steffi.
stuff yeah, her her stuff is really cute.
Yeah,
So,
I know. Some of the dresses were like I was like, I'd wear
yeah,
that.
I think they would be quite comfortable and super nice. So, anybody interested in some resort wear, check out Guava and Company.
All right.
Thanks for joining us today. That's what she does, and maybe what you could do too. If you like what you heard, make sure you follow What She Does wherever you get your podcasts.